Welcome to Chai After Dark, everyone. I'm Shabnam, and I'm here with my co-host, Sameem. Today, we're covering Season 5 of You, Episodes 3 through 6. What's up, Sameem?
What's up, boo-boo?
Boo-boo.
That's what Maddie calls Joe.
Oh, yeah, boo-boo.
What's up, boo-boo?
I know, right? Boo-boo. Ah, that's such a cute name for such an evil person.
She didn't know, though, right? So how was she supposed to know?
Yeah.
Everybody falls for his charm, but you know what the funny thing about this is? I call
What?
Sophie boo-boo. I've been calling her boo-boo since she was born.
That's hilarious.
It's like chilled out a little bit, but I still call her boo-boo,
Yeah.
like maybe when she's going to bed or something, but it's not as consistent as it used to be. So when I first heard that, I was like, what the fuck?
That's funny. No, and now that you say it, I feel like I've heard you call her that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
because when he walked into the dungeon and she's like, boo-boo, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? It's not even her love interest. So it's kind of cute, I guess. It's supposed to be endearing.
Yeah, she's just that kind of person that talks like that with everyone, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with it. No ex-sister-in-laws here called me boo-boo. So good for Joe.
Yeah, I know. No, it's weird because so Anna Camp plays both
Yeah.
the twins, right? Reagan and Maddie. And they're supposed to be complete opposites. Maddie's supposed to be like cotton candy and Reagan's supposed to be like nails on a chalkboard,
Yeah.
you know? And it's really kind of crazy because she's so kind and lovey-dovey and she wears pink and she's really cute. And then Reagan just is a bull in a china shop emotionally to everyone, including her kid. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. She's like a killer. Like she says what Kate is, but that's actually what Reagan is, right? So Reagan is completely insane, but she keeps calling Kate the daddy's girl, the one that was always be CEO. So Reagan is so jealous, right? I don't know if so full disclosure, like Shabnam said, we're doing episodes 3 through 6. I have not watched episodes 7 through 10. So that's where we will lie. And Shabnam, you have, right? You watched the whole thing?
I did. I watched 7 through 10, but I'm not going to give anything away. We're going to save that.
Really
And
into
then,
this, dude. Please.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. So basically, where it starts off is Joe has Maddie captive, right? That was the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
And so Joe and Bronte end up going to like a spoken word event and they meet her ex Clayton, who goes full asshole on her. And he's sex shaming her. He starts reading this old poetry of hers. And then, of course, Joe comes in to comfort her and he starts obsessing about her more, like, surprise, surprise, just like, you know, Joe's being Joe. They don't do a lot of different stuff in this season for the first 6 episodes.
Yeah.
It does change, but yeah.
I mean, he comes in, he's like, we used to fuck. And I'm like, okay, well, Joe's going to kill this guy. Thank you for setting this up. Like, we didn't know that. It was just the most obvious thing. And lo and behold, I don't even have to watch the rest of the series because he gets killed off in episode 6. So it's true, right?
Yeah.
It was
crazy.
interesting. He's like, we used to fuck. Like, and we got to say the spoken event that they go to, whatever shit that they made up that Bronte wrote, that shit was hilariously bad. Like they went full into the display. It was such a bad reading and she's like crying and shit. Good for them. They're amazing actors.
But okay, have you ever been to spoken word events? They usually aren't that great. It's like open mic night. Like you might get a few good people and a few like and a bunch of not good people.
Do you know that I bombed 2 weeks ago and Sophie went and told everybody? So
I didn't want you to take that as an attack, but that's
like,
hilarious that Sophie told people.
Yeah, it's like too quick. I went and then we went to the San Diego Music Awards last week. I think I was telling you. And then the day before we were at musical performance with my friends that invited me to the San Diego Music Awards. But she goes and tells people, she's like, hey, Sameem and I came up with this script 3 minutes because the open mic is 3 minutes. And I went and did something completely different. I riffed. I didn't do my prepared set. So that's why I bombed.
Hilarious.
But then, you know, it was 21 and over, so she didn't go with me. But then I told her what happened and she went and told everyone. And I'm like, you know, I'm trying to ease into it. I need to go tell everyone that I bombed. But yeah, it was fun.
That's cool. So have you ever watched Kill Tony on Netflix?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's funny because sometimes they'll ask people when they're done, they're like, did you like write that on the way over here? Or is that like your best minute? And I'm just like, damn,
it's bad.
That's pretty harsh.
Like the one I did a couple weeks ago, it's actually American Comedy Club in Gaslamp here in San Diego. It's super famous. Joe Rogan's favorite comedy club. everyone gets up there and they just make gay jokes. Like the whole time they just make gay jokes and just there's other things to make fun of. It's wild how they go so into it because they thought that they couldn't. So now they have to go anti-woke. The comedy is hilariously bad, is what I'm trying to say.
Interesting. Weird.
And yes, it's interesting and weird and bad.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of describes Joe Rogan, right?
I mean, Joe Rogan's not funny. He's not like, I don't want to say he's not funny, but he's not funny. Like the podcast.
He's successful.
He's successful, yes.
But he's not funny. I agree. Yeah.
He's like rambling.
Of all the things he does, I think his stand-up is the thing he's the worst at, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's not what made him famous. It was like Fear Factor and then UFC and then Joe Rogan Experience. But we're not here to talk about Joe Rogan. We're here to talk about Joe Goldberg.
Joe Goldberg.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you before we move on. He was supposed to be dead in LA, right? His love Quinn kills him. How does he come back and still has his name as Joe Goldberg in the United States?
Because Kate managed to like wipe his record and get him his name back. They don't fully explain it, but they basically say something like that.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a pretty quick gloss over. So I was kind of, because when they're recounting everything, I'm kind of like, wait, this guy can't be around. Like they thought he was dead. And on top of that, like he was also suspiciously involved with a lot of murders. So, okay, well, good for him. The privilege continues. Go ahead.
The privilege continues. So everybody thinks Maddie's missing, right? They don't know that Maddie's in the cage. So Reagan basically pretends to be Maddie and goes live on Instagram as Maddie, basically saying, hey, I'm Maddie. I'm giving up my board vote to Reagan so that Reagan can then go vote on behalf of both of them and vote Kate out. I was like, damn, that's a bitch ass move.
And that has nothing to do with Joe and Maddie. She was doing that on her own, Reagan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. You're right. Because the characters in You are hilarious. It's so convenient that a serial killer just happens to be coming across people that he has to kill. He must be so happy that he gets like these opportunities.
You know what? You know what they say? Like, just put that energy out there, just manifest it and it'll happen. So this is his version of that.
Yeah. Some people manifest some weird things, right? Like,
totally.
But he's manifesting people he can murder. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild. So then they realize like, oh shit, what are we going to do? Because she's basically trying to get Kate out. And so this is kind of the start of when Kate and Joe start having this like discussion about how bad they want to be.
Yeah.
And he basically wants to go like full throttle serial killer. And she's like, let's try to be good sometimes. And it's like,
you just killed
like,
Uncle Bob, Kate.
Yeah,
Last
seriously.
episode we discussed it, and that's what I said. At the end of episode 2, she's asking him basically to kill the people that she needs to kill. And she's not saying it that directly, but by her actions of allowing him to kill Uncle Bob, isn't that what she's saying?
Yeah, and then I feel like she just doesn't want to kill her sisters because it's like a little too close for comfort. So it's weird she's trying to take like...
I like how you're like, it's almost justified to kill your sister, but you know... Not all the way.
That's her issue with it. And it's like she's trying to be so righteous, but it's just odd because it's like literally you just killed Bob. It's very weird.
But that's what she says. She's like, gotta drive everything in moderation, right? Including serial killing, right? You can't be, it's too much. And I hate to do this, Shabnam. I hate to do this. You're going to get mad at me. But in Dexter, he kills way too many people. There's 8 seasons of it. He's killing 3 people a fucking episode by the end of it. So, like, how many people do you want to murder and throw into Biscayne Bay in Miami? Like, Joe,
damn,
his body count's 25 now, by the way, because it was 23 last week, right?
Yeah.
So Clayton and Reagan.
Yeah, that's
because he killed Reagan, right? Like, it's not Maddie. That's like the argument right now, right? So.
Okay, yeah. So after this whole Reagan impersonating Maddie to get the vote, Joe decides that he needs to kill Reagan, even if Kate doesn't agree. So Joe decides to tell Maddie that she should kill Reagan and become her. And he like coaches her on becoming Reagan. And she's
boot camp serial killer. He's like so quick with it. Like he knows exactly what to say to get someone to kill someone. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is. And he's basically like, you can be as bad as Reagan, and he like manipulates her.
I know.
Like,
what is this?
It's campy.
What's
I think.
the worst
like,
thing that I could get you to do? Like, probably not murder. Like, what? How could that even like be a conversation? That's what I was thinking when this scene was going on. I'm like, in what world would I need to convince someone to murder their sibling? Right?
Because they're also not that young, right?
They're like 40,
they're
right?
Just,
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think about that too. Like, I don't even know.
An edible. That's probably the worst. And that wasn't even me.
Yeah, like that's probably the worst thing. You know, when people get into desperate situations, they obviously do worse stuff. So it's hard.
I was trying
to
get you to hit on that lesbian in 2015 at New Year's party. It wasn't even 2015. It was like 2013.
Yeah.
In Fremont.
Oh yeah.
But I was joking, but I also would have totally, judged you if you did. I'd be like, what the fuck? I was kidding. So getting people to murder people, it's such an extra step from being an actual murderer, because his deal is control, right?
Yeah. Going back to the lesbian, I thought about it. I gave it.
You went back to.
I gave it a really good thought because it was funny, right? So I was like, okay, how do I do? But then I was like,
I didn't know Fremont, California was known for lesbian hookups at New Year's parties.
The way you flirt with a girl, I feel like is different than the way you flirt with a guy. And I was like, this is like uncharted waters. I don't know how to do this, so I just didn't do it.
Okay. So I went on a first date last Wednesday, and then I saw her again on Saturday, and I probably should not have. On Saturday, she's like, "Are you sure you're not gay?"
Wow.
Whatever. Without the context, it sounds ridiculous, but the context is that I'm clean cut and well spoken and slim. I was like, "Are you serious?"
Interesting.
So yeah, we had a pretty bad breakup on our second date. I didn't tell you. I know I tell you a lot, but I was gonna tell you now.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say.
Am I? Even
no,
if I
you're
am,
not gay. I mean, I know you're not
like,
gay.
let me be, lady. But it wouldn't make sense. Why would I be there? And I have a daughter.
Yeah.
I had 2 wives.
Yeah, and you've had 2 wives. Yeah. There's another pretty famous podcaster that people say is gay, so maybe it's like a podcaster thing.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Huh.
Hey, I'm cool with it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
We can hang out.
Yeah. So people say what they say, but you do you. Whatever floats your boat.
Life's pretty good, man, but I was a little like perturbed, or whatever the word is.
Perturbed. Yeah, you said it right, I think. Yeah, because you're like, where did this come from?
Well, it came from
I mean,
like the vibe that I put out there, which is similar to Joe Goldberg's vibe, other than like he doesn't make a lot of jokes.
Yeah, okay, but you know what's funny? I have to say that in the span of 1 week, you
I know what you're gonna say. I know.
You definitely had a girl that knew you weren't gay, and then there's a girl that thought you were gay. So, a lot goes on in a week,
Okay, well, we're talking about you and Joe Goldberg, and this guy falls in love every 10 seconds. I didn't fall in love with anybody. I just want to put that out there, right? This guy falls in love with multiple women on the same episode. And for me, yes, last Tuesday before we recorded, I only had to go meet the other girl because I had already broken up with her 2 weeks prior. And she was very much like, can we meet for more closure?
It was closure. It was, it was closure.
I didn't tell you this part. She didn't give me any closure. Tuesday after the San Diego Music Awards, I got a text from her, and she kind of sent me a provocative picture, which we've never done, ever.
Okay.
And then she's like, I miss you. And I'm like, I responded the next morning. I'm like, I literally told you that I'm not interested a few hours prior. And then you sent this picture, and we have no history or basis of any sort of like flirting over text and sexual like innuendo even. So I had to break up with 2 women, and one I had to break up with like pretty profusely, like, leave me alone. Sorry, is that too much?
Yeah,
I didn't murder her like Joe Goldberg would have.
Yeah, see, it's a mixed bag out there, right? Like, some people have some perception, some people have another perception. You never know what you're going to get.
Second one did not think I was gay, by the way. I think it was a perception. But she's like, maybe you're bi or something. But I was like, it doesn't work like that. If somebody's like well-dressed, it doesn't mean that they're, on a spectrum.
Yeah.
And even like, look, like, you don't think Joe's on some sort of spectrum? Maybe that's why he goes so heavy into women and love.
Joe the character or Penn Badgley, like the aesthetic?
Oh, I don't know anything about Penn.
I think there's a certain aesthetic, and I think it's like SoCal-ish, like artsy person aesthetic. Mm-hmm. I mean, you and Penn Badgley are different. He's more like emo poetry guy. You're more like
shout out jokes randomly guy. No, emo.
Yeah, shout out jokes randomly guy. There's this vibe that it's like a little like metro artsy, funny, that maybe people want to say that that kind of man isn't like hyper masculine or like hyper machismo, so they don't get it.
No,
you
she
know?
did say,
Like,
she was like, "You are an amazing catch," and I'm like, "You haven't caught shit." So
like,
I don't
like
know.
it's
Yeah, thank you. Are you validating me right now? This is really nice.
well, and I'm just saying, like, maybe you didn't lead with all the sports you do, so she didn't think that you're like a jock or something.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't know what people.
Saturday night after we talked an hour and a half, I told her, I was like, I have a podcast, and then I play basketball a lot, blah blah blah, and she's like, "You didn't tell me you had a podcast." She's like, "You didn't tell me on Wednesday." I'm like, "Why would I tell you that? It sounds stupid." She's like,
Yeah.
"But your voice sounds like it." She's like, "I thought that you were in radio or something," and I'm like, "Now you're just lying." There's no way you thought that. You thought that this random guy was in radio.
That's funny.
Anyways, I don't need to go find my Mixie panic. What is it? That panic girl,
Manic pixie. That's what it is.
What Bronte
you're like
literally
panic.
is. Yeah, I'm panicked now.
Yeah, that's funny.
So after Maddie and Reagan, I guess, swap places. I got kind of confused, but one had to murder one, and then they acted like each other back to back, which was kind of wild.
Yeah, and shout out to Anna Camp. This is like amazing acting.
Yeah.
But what's funny was Joe's like, he got Maddie on board. Then he goes to kill Reagan at her house. And it's this crazy scene where she's like, I don't know, some kind of jujitsu MMA fighter. She's like fighting him off. And then she has a bowling alley in her house and she throws a bowling ball at him. And
cool.
And then he grabs and then he grabs a bowling pin and hits her in the head with a bowling pin in the yard eventually. I was like, wow, okay, this
is just like when he killed Peaches. He was like chasing her out of her mansion in season 1, and then he kills her in the yard. And then I think he kills another girl in the yard too. I can't remember. This motherfucker's killed too many people. But when she's doing all that jujitsu and stuff, like, she throws him in the pool, right? But then when she runs out, he's already behind her. Like, that was quick. It takes more than like a second to get out of a pool. So good fight scene.
Especially with all your clothes on soaking wet.
Oh, yeah. And then he had a ski mask that he had to pull off, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, I knew it was you. So, hey, Reagan's pretty smart, though. She knew it was Joe this whole time.
Yeah. She could tell that he was a bad seed, which it takes one to know one, right? So.
Yeah. And then during all this, then Maddie said that basically the kid is hers, right? And then the reason that she was having the affair was because that was her man initially.
Yeah.
So
it was her man initially. Reagan stole
of course
Harrison from her just as like a control thing. And then Reagan didn't want to like ruin her body by getting pregnant, so she made Maddie carry the baby. And it's actually Maddie's actual. I mean, they have the same DNA, so I guess I don't know.
It's like
honestly,
both their baby, I guess, and one carried the baby, but that is some hardcore, like, let me lean into like White Lotus and make these characters so ridiculous, like a wealthy person being like, no, I don't want any stretch marks. I'm going to make my sister, who looks exactly like me, by the way, but Reagan thinks she's hotter, which is strange. Like, you look exactly the same. I understand it's the same actress, but to have your sister carry a baby, like, that's some hardcore gaslighting / manipulation, toxic energy.
Yeah.
I think, like, the reason why they did it so over the top was to justify when Maddie does kill Reagan, the audience is like, Reagan should have died.
Yeah, it's basically Maddie realizes how poorly she's been treated her whole life, and Joe manipulates her into having like a lot of rage in that moment. So he obviously hits Reagan over the head with the bowling pin and brings her back to the cage, and then Maddie has her insulin because she's like a type 1 diabetic, I think. And then she eventually just like stabs her and gives her the insulin. But when he found Maddie holding Reagan's quote dead body,
on the video.
I was like, whoa. Yeah, I was like, what if? What if it? I think you're thinking what I'm thinking, but like, I was like, what if it's Reagan who's pretending to be Maddie and she killed Maddie?
I instantly thought that, but then Reagan has the wound from the bowling pin, so she wouldn't have been able to switch, even if she was able to, see the insulin coming. Also, if Reagan can kick Joe's ass, she probably could have kicked Maddie's ass as well. in that cage.
Yeah, but I think she didn't see Maddie.
She didn't see Maddie coming. Yeah, and then she was also out of it, right? She had just gotten knocked over the head. She was concussed.
Yeah, concussed.
But you're right. And then Joe sees them like cuddling, but she had already killed her. But then Joe on video is like, "Oh, she can't do it," right? But then he goes there, and then he realizes she's dead.
Yeah,
Reagan's dead.
Yeah, Reagan's dead. Yeah, and so Maddie, like, she has all kinds of feelings about it, but then she's like, okay, I can become Reagan. And so she goes and she becomes Reagan, basically, and she is with Harrison and her daughter, but she has to treat them like shit, like Reagan would. And I think that ends up, like, wearing on her, which is kind of interesting.
I mean, she starts, like, she has a glitch. She, like, keeps going back and forth. She's like, I can't do it. It's very much like Fight Club when Edward Norton and Brad Pitt become each other. It's very much like, you know what I'm talking about. There's always a movie where existentially the soul is outside the body, and at the end of the movie you realize it's been the same person the whole time, right? So this is what Maddie's turning into by killing her sister, and she's like, she's haunting me. I'm like, yeah, of course she's fucking haunting you. You have the same DNA, you have the same soul. And you just killed her.
I know, it's crazy. And also I was thinking it's hard to act all the time. Right. Like,
it was never going to happen. Joe was going to be like, oh, this is going to happen. Maddie only had to act like this for like a month.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be for a month. And then they were going to say that like Reagan had gone abroad and she got into some boating accident and drowned. But a month is still a long time to act 24/7.
I can barely act right now.
And I don't think.
Do we act right all the time? There's no fucking way. Like, you know, human nature is what it is because things.
You have to relax at some point, and I don't know. She's also not super strong-willed. It feels like so. I don't know. Like I feel like Reagan could have acted for a month
if she needed to, of course. But and this was something that Joe was put into, right? Like he didn't want to kidnap Maddie, so it wasn't supposed to be like this. So I can understand the plan is really stupid for her to act like that for a month, but he was forced into it, I guess, but it's his fault.
Yeah. So anyways, that's them. And then we see that there's like a bookstore reopening. So finally, like Joe opens the bookstore because of course he has to do this whole like writer romanticizing thing with like Bronte and give her the bookstore to manage and all this stuff.
God, I'm sorry, this is a little bit too much. Come on. I'm like, hey, on a second date, peace out. Essentially. He's like, hey, do you want a bookstore? Like, come on. Like, and an apartment?
I know. I think
some hardcore like desperation.
But also, you were more motivated to be generous with people if you're going to kill them anyway. It's not like he was going to have her.
But he never wanted to kill Bronte. This was legit. This is Joe being in love, even though he's already married, and then having like a fake affair that turns into a real affair.
But he's not sincere and farsighted. So, like, I don't know. Whatever. He thinks he can do whatever he wants when he wants. So if he wanted the apartment for something else, like I could see like kicking her out. Plus, nobody ever stays in his life for that long. She's gonna figure it out eventually if he doesn't kill her.
This guy's got some serious abandonment issues, and we probably all do. Like, of course. But last Tuesday, when I was breaking up with someone, she's like, "You hard played into my abandonment issues." She said that to me in person. I'm like, that's literally what a breakup is. Like, what do you blaming me for your abandonment issues?
Yeah. Like, also, it's like,
what are you talking to me about that for? Is that rude? Also, sorry, am I being like really like I shouldn't be this? No, like I'm not laughing at her pain or anything. Of course not.
No, everybody has to take responsibility for their own choices, right? And I've been in this place too where I pick someone that's not really emotionally available, and it's like, why did I do that? Because maybe deep down at that time I didn't want a relationship, and I feel like that's kind of what she did, because it's not like you were like, I'm looking for a girlfriend. You never told her that, so you told her the opposite.
You can listen to this podcast, and that's happened before too. Just for the listeners out there, I don't always put my love life out there, or lack thereof, apparently. But last October-ish, I did go on a date with someone, and she listened to 11 episodes in a row, and then came back and said, "It doesn't seem like you're ready for a relationship." So that's why I didn't tell the other girl about the podcast.
Well, also that woman was a little bit older than this woman, and I think that's probably why she figured that out.
Yeah, I get it. I'm equal opportunity offender, not offender, dater.
Yeah. Okay.
Joe's the offender here.
You mean age-wise? You mean like as far as dating different ages of women?
I'm going to
no
comment that
right?
one, but in my past, I haven't had a good track record. Yeah, but in today's world, yeah, I'm going older only.
Okay.
Like today, starting today.
Okay, cool. I'll believe it when I see it.
Hey, see, Joe, this is how you
man.
break up with women. You get a podcast and you publicly call them out without their names. You don't go murder them.
Yeah, don't murder anyone. So then Clayton comes to the bookstore and picks a fight with Bronte. And yay, Joe gets to jump in and be a hero again because Joe wants to be a white knight and play this role. And then that makes him really, really horny. So then they go to the company and Maddie and the board have their board meeting, right? But Maddie's pretending to be Reagan, and Kate is about to resign because she's like, Joe, I don't want you to kill my sister. I'm just going to resign and give up, basically, and submit to Reagan. But right before she can do it, quote unquote Reagan, which is actually Maddie, is like, okay, I'm quitting. I'm taking a step back, and I am voting on behalf of Maddie and myself, and I'm turning over my shares to. She turns over her shares to Kate, right?
Yeah, because Kate asked Joe, why did Reagan do that? I don't really understand what happened because they killed Uncle Bob. Then the adopted brother gets that board seat. And then Reagan is saying, I have Maddie's board seat. I'll see her in a few weeks, but she authorized me to vote with you all in favor. And then all in favor was for Teddy to join the board seat. That's what they were voting on.
Okay.
Because Kate didn't have to resign. She was about to.
Yeah, so Kate doesn't have to resign. And so then Kate basically runs to Joe, who's basically lurking like a creeper watching this whole thing go down.
Such a Succession thing, like the husband of, I forgot her name, but the daughter, the husband's always around, that goofy guy in Succession. And they give him an entire department to run. This is Joe, dude. Like married into wealth. He's just hanging around.
Yeah. And so then like Kate's like, what did you do? Right. And she's like suspicious of him, and she's kind of annoyed because she knows he did something, but he won't really tell her what he did. He's like, it's taken care of. So
he said we had a talk, and then she's like, really, you had a talk with Reagan? And Reagan just gave up all this and let Teddy come onto the board and all this shit. Come on.
Yeah. And then he basically discerns from that. He's like, our marriage is over because she should be appreciating me instead of being suspicious of me. And it's like, okay,
total nice guy. Like these nice guys that are like, I do all this shit for you, so then you should be like forever subservient and forgive me for any indiscretions. But it's kind of like
it's like a passive aggressive manipulation and control.
Well, he can't see it from her perspective that he's a murderer, and she's like, I am getting subsequently more and more scared of you, and you don't seem to realize it, Joe. So that's kind of where Kate's coming from.
Yeah, and he's not being honest with her. He's doing these like controlling maneuvers that's going to change things in her life.
Yeah,
but
I don't know who this guy is and where they built this persona off of, but this is every toxic male trait you can think of, including the charm and the ability to sleep with women and seduce them. All of this is toxic. It's not good. When a man is able to like knock your socks off, it might not be the best thing. Just keep in mind, ladies.
It's like a trauma bond potentially.
I may or may not be good at that too, right? But it's like, I'm not like, he's telling Bronte
you're
he,
not
like, loves
deviously
her and shit.
doing
Like,
it.
I know. I'm like, dude, I'm just like hanging out.
Yeah. I think a lot of people fall into these things because of happenstance or their own baggage or whatever it is. And he's doing that too, to an extent, but obviously he's a murderer and a major manipulator, psychopath, very dangerous, versus most people are just like emotionally damaged, you know? So then he's all horny and he's pissed at Kate. So what does he do? Obviously go to the bookstore, sleep with Bronte.
It was instant. It was
instant.
The previous scenes, she's like, I don't want an affair. He's like, I can't do this. Like his inner dialogue was like, no, I can't do this. Of course not. And then he just goes and fucks her. And then he literally says, that sham of a marriage is over. This guy moves on.
Yeah. And when he moves on in an instant completely.
Well, this time he didn't have to murder anyone. He actually moved on. He didn't go. Usually he'll murder the woman first. And then he'll, you know, so this time he like.
That's his.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to divorce her.
That's his version of breaking up. He's like, oh, well, you know, she's gone.
Is Joe not merciful? Is Joe not merciful? Just, he's not going to murder Kate. Man. He's just going to leave her. And he's going to take the baby.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So that was his plan. But this is the first woman that he's with that isn't down and out, right? Like all these other women that he was with in previous seasons, they were kind of going through a lot of shit. Kate's kind of has some power, right?
She's a badass bitch, right? Like that's the whole point. Like
yeah, boss babe. Yeah. So basically she ends up investigating him because she's like, what the hell did he do with Reagan? And she figures out that he gave the apartment to Bronte and that he's sleeping with Bronte.
She follows him that same night. He like gives her this apartment. I don't know what the timeline is. You know, it's like a soap opera. It doesn't really matter. But she's like outside the apartment because he got her a massage. He got Bronte a massage. And then she's like, oh, I forgot to tip you, and runs outside. Look, you've had massages, right?
Yeah.
If the masseuse leaves your house and you're like draped in massage clothing and oils, are you going to run outside your house to give her a $5 to $25 tip? No, you're not. You're going to be like, I'm cool. Joe already took care of this.
And I think she only had underwear on, too, which I'm like, why are you running outside in your underwear?
It is a very convenient scene. It's because Kate was standing behind like a phone booth or something, and she was staring at Bronte running out in her underwear. And then that's when Kate knew that Joe is not only a murderer, but he's also a philanderer.
Yeah, but also, doesn't she have Venmo or Zelle or Cash App?
No one does that.
Why can't she use those?
I'm always running out in my underwear if I need to. Like, hey, DoorDash driver, you forgot this $5 and the show. I mean, it's such a weird setup. This whole show like flipped within a 2-minute scene, right? He like goes and fucks Bronte, still a terrible name, and I'm glad it's fake.
Yeah.
You know? And then like Kate catches him, and then things escalate from there.
Yeah, and then, she starts to figure out all these other things about Mary Ann's disappearance and love and how she was killed. And she basically starts putting, like, the pieces of the last 4 seasons together. And all this time, so she's cooking up a plan of trying to figure out what to do next. All this time, like I said, Maddie is struggling to maintain this farce as Reagan. She can't stand being mad at her kid and Harrison all the time. She's
good, man. She's like, well, fuck yourself to the kid in the kitchen, right? Yeah. In episode 4. I'm like, what?
It's so sad. Yeah.
I never saw actual Reagan yell at her kid like that, right?
No, but the presumption is that she was the same at home as she is with everyone else. And so things are unraveling for Joe. And then Joe also finds a note from Bronte at Mooney's saying that she left town.
This dude lost 2 chicks in the same day, too.
Yeah, it took you a week. It took me in a day.
No, it took me 4.5 days. Let's be real. Like I move on quick too, I guess. Hey, I'm not a player, everyone. I'm just fucking around, okay? And I'm not even fucking around. Pun intended, I guess. So everybody chill.
Yeah. You're just.
I have a lot of free time.
Yeah.
And people like hanging out with me. What can I do?
Yeah, you dress well and you make jokes. So there you go.
And I leave by 10 p.m. So good things don't happen after midnight, right?
So that night, Joe's putting Henry to bed, and then Henry finds a knife in Kate and Joe's bed and gives it to Joe. And Joe's like, what the hell? Like, she's obviously scared of me, so she has this knife. So then they have this whole fight, and she basically...
But his fighting isn't fighting. His fighting is gaslighting. He's like...
Yeah.
Oh, you're scared of me? Oh, I'll just leave if you're scared of me. Like, it's such a fucking manipulation tactic.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm helping you and you don't appreciate it. He's just totally gaslighting her. And she's like, you're crazy and I don't want to be around you. So he basically leaves, and then he's like, I should be going to Bronte, but Bronte's missing. So then he starts looking for Bronte like a stocky creeper, and he breaks into Clayton's apartment to do that. And then Bronte calls him as he's in Clayton's apartment, and he's like trying to figure out if they're together or if Clayton kidnapped her.
That's the first place he went, is to Clayton's apartment. I mean, smart, I get it, but it's like, how insecure, bro.
He's got a lot of practice.
Another dude's house. Like, she can't go anywhere else. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. So then she calls him and she's like, forget me. And she says she's out somewhere.
Some like cafe.
So obviously they hang up the phone, and then he calls right back and he asks them what establishment it is. And it's a diner in Atlantic Beach. So he decides to go to it the next day. And this was kind of stupid on Bronte's part. There's a lot of things in here where I'm like,
yeah, but it's kind of coming. But she was trying to get him there, but not get him there. I know we haven't touched on the whole Catfish situation yet, but I guess she's supposed to be confused and not thinking clearly, and that's why she calls him.
Yeah,
right?
I guess. So then this is your favorite scene. So then Kate comes over. Kate's like, Reagan, what happened to Maddie? And she's like talking to her, and she feels like she can't fake it anymore. So she runs into the bathroom. She tries to pretend like her and Maddie are in there. She does both their voices. And eventually Kate's like, let me in. I want to talk to both of you. And she runs in, and basically Maddie confesses that Joe
tells him everything,
made her. Yeah, she tells her everything. It was like a wild scene, and it's sort of like hard to describe, and it was really weird because she's like switching back and forth between Maddie, Reagan. Yeah, it was great.
It was great acting. Like I already brought up Brad Pitt and Edward Norton in Fight Club, but I'm trying to think. There's like another scene in a movie like really famous. Maybe it's Sixth Sense. No, it's not Sixth Sense because he's not playing. He's dead. They're playing both, and you don't know that it's one character at the end of the movie. It's one person, but it's been like two characters throughout the movie. So it was cool the way that they did it. I knew the twins were going to cause complications. I didn't think they were going to pick every complication you can think of.
Yeah.
And throw it into the first 5-6 episodes. Affairs with the incestual. She even says it. She's like, incestual affair with my husband.
Yeah.
And then they hate each other. And then one twin is crazy, ragey, and the other one is like just a goofball. It's just every complication twins could have. These two had it, and it culminates in this like scene where she's just like, she's actually being Reagan, and then she's actually being Maddie, and then of course Kate barges in.
Yeah, Kate barges in, and then the whole thing falls apart. It was super cool. Speaking of an actor playing two people, apparently Michael B. Jordan does that in Sinners, and we're going to watch that soon.
Mm-hmm. We are.
Yeah, but apparently there's like a scene in the beginning where he hands a cigarette to his twin, but it's him handing the cigarette to himself as the other character. And apparently it was like a really expensive scene because they had to do a lot of CGI or whatever they do to make it work.
Yeah. Also, Friends, we can't forget Ross and Russ.
Oh, yeah.
Can't forget that.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
No more Friends. Okay, let's stop.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, go ahead. Did you have something else?
I was going to say like Phoebe and her twin.
Oh, yeah. Phoebe and Ursula. Yeah. Hey, we need to stop this shit. This is getting a little bit too frenzy.
So then he goes to Atlantic City the next day, and he
Atlantic Beach.
asks Atlantic Beach. Oh, sorry. Yeah. He goes to
I don't
Atlantic
know if that's a real
Beach,
place, by the way. I've never heard of it, but it might be.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know either. I'm sure it's probably on
I'm sure there's an
East Coast
Atlantic
somewhere.
Beach on the East Coast somewhere.
Because there's a whole freaking Atlantic Ocean. So I'm sure they named some beach Atlantic Beach, right? But anyway, so he goes to Atlantic Beach to this diner, and he finds the guy who was there the night before who's high as fuck.
Yeah.
And he asks him about Bronte, and then the guy tells him where to find Bronte, and he goes to Bronte's apartment, and she tases him. And then he falls on the floor.
As she should. She should have.
Yeah, she should.
Yeah.
She should have left it at that. She should have left. But I don't know. This woman is a glutton for punishment, but it is what it is.
And then this is when, so before they actually reveal, I guess, a twist in the middle of the series that this was all a catfish, then Dom and Phoenix and Clayton runs in first.
Yeah, so first he wakes up and he's like, did you just tase me? And she's like, oh, I was scared. And then they go up and they like sleep together, right?
Right? Because he was upstairs coming back down, and then Clayton comes into the door by himself, but that's because she calls the friend that's where Joe is, so they knew that. So she's the one that told him.
Yeah. So then Clayton comes over, and Clayton's like getting upset with her, and this is what Joe sees. And so Joe basically runs and like defends her and punches Clayton. And of course,
no, Clayton punched him first.
Okay, Clayton punches him first, then he punches Clayton back, and then he can't just like punch Clayton. He has to fully
move him
ram
up,
Clayton's head,
curb stomp him basically onto the fireplace.
And kill him. And then the other two friends, Dom and Phoenix, crazy ass names.
Yeah.
They're not that crazy, but it's so like hipstery New York.
Really? Because I thought it was very Fast and the Furious.
I mean, sure, maybe, but like
really Dom. And then
but Dom, Phoenix, and then Bronte. It's
and
like
Clayton.
Obviously, Clayton's like,
well, that's his real name.
Yeah,
Bronte's not her real name. And Dom, it was like Dominique, I think she said.
Yeah, but this is just so New York, you know?
Yeah.
It's so New York. We're into art, people.
And then also, they all came together over a dead novelist. So apparently I guess I could see this, like Elvis and Marilyn Monroe. Your art becomes more valuable when you pass, right? And that's how they found each other.
Well, it was because Dom and Phoenix come in and they're like on an Instagram live.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we start getting into today times like techie stuff, and so they're on this Instagram live. They show the whole thing. Joe's like bloody and frazzled because he just killed Clayton, and so obviously the cops come and take Bronte, and so then we find out the twist, which you're getting at, which is that Bronte was friends with all these people. They all knew Guinevere Beck, and they read her book, and she was like a mentor to Bronte, whose real name is Louise. And Louise made this Bronte identity to catfish Joe to try to find out if he was responsible for Beck's murder. But instead, she started falling in love with him. And now she's in the detective's office in New York trying to give her story about what she thinks of Joe. But she ends up telling them that Joe's innocent because Joe was rationally perceiving what was going on as Clayton hurting her, and so he was defending her.
Yeah.
But I feel like he went too far to kill him.
Totally. I mean, I think that's you're the lawyer, but I understand you're not a defense lawyer or anything like that. But this seems like it would have been some sort of malicious, negligent, involuntary,
like at least manslaughter or something.
Exactly, yeah. Especially if you have the skills to do it, and the person's already detained, you can't just kill them, right? Like the. Clayton
you can't just kill them.
But Clayton was choking him, and Joe grabbed his hand away, and Joe, like you said, was perceiving him as a threat. So I do think, like, what is he supposed to do? Because what if I don't want to just knock him out? Every time you knock someone out in a movie, that person gets up with a gun at the end of the movie, right? So I understand.
No,
like,
you're right.
You kind of have to completely dismember him, decapitate him.
No.
How do you take?
I know what you're trying to say.
Take somebody's will away.
Yeah,
destabilize
you have to completely.
How many words?
Yeah,
are we gonna go
what's this word?
I know.
What's this word?
Demember him.
Deprogram him.
Deprogram him.
Destabilize him.
Detachable penis.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Let's go.
Detachable penis him.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. The force should be proportional, but these are the arguments that probably like his defense versus her defense would make. And obviously his defense would win because he's rich. So he's got all the privilege.
And they don't lie in the story.
So when Bronte gets taken in for questioning, Joe obviously gets arrested, but Kate's family lawyer is going to defend him. And so that's kind of where we're at. I think that's pretty much it. Did we miss anything?
No, the only thing is Teddy, he makes a great point, and I wanted to point it out because there's not a lot of diversity and representation on this show, but he's like, being complicit is there are consequences.
Yeah, he kind of calls her out.
And he's like, maybe not for you, Kate, but for me, Teddy, even though I didn't do anything, there's going to be consequences just due to me being complicit, because she wants him to be complicit.
Yeah, because he's basically like, I'm not white and I'm not super rich, right?
And I'm adopted.
That's
like
his,
the dad is gone, Uncle Bob's gone, like Reagan's gone. There's not a lot of people that are gonna have his back, right? So so there was that scene, and then the only thing is I wanted to read a couple Bronte quotes and show you how this bitch got Joe to fall in love. You want to hear these? You want to hear some manic pixiness? Manic,
tell us how
manic.
Panic Mixie? Yeah. Tell us about the Panic Mixie quotes.
So, I want to feel in control of my lack of control. And then he dips her, right? That was fucking stupid.
Oh my God.
It was very corny. And then this is what Joe says in return after he falls in love. What if it was you and only you?
Okay.
He goes and says that right after he leaves Kate.
You know what I think? And I know this is hilarious, but we'll get into this more next time because the rest of the episodes kind of address this stuff more. But I started to think about it. If you're a girl with daddy issues, you ideally want to find a partner that will love you so completely and fully and like make up for your dad's love. And it doesn't work like that, because a person that loves you as an adult isn't supposed to love you like that. They're supposed to love you as a partner. They're not supposed to love you like all encompassingly, like a father should love a daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like she's saying that, like, oh, I want to feel in control. That's what she wants. And that's not a healthy love in adults, I think.
I think dating has changed a lot in the last 50 years. Like, it seems like what's going on is, because I have like met a good amount of women in the last 18 months or so, but only like literally I'm not really even dating, right? I'm like passing the time.
Yeah.
And it does become a trauma dump on day one.
Yeah.
Because we say it all the time, Shabnam, that boomers fucked us up, right? So it's being shown in these kind of ways. And I don't think a show like You could have existed in the late 80s because not enough of this trauma was out and about because boomers were still traumatizing people in the 80s. So it seems like now that with TikTok and the advent of like mental health awareness and being able to actually talk about shortcomings within your brain, that's how shows like this end up getting made because this kind of shit didn't exist. All this like lovey-dovey shit, daddy issues. Joe has mommy issues, by the way, and daddy issues.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. He has all the issues.
He has all the issues.
Yeah.
So, but you're totally right. Like, and I'm not like piling on any girl that I've dated or hung out with, but one of the girls from last week, she did tell me she has severe daddy issues. And then we did spend like 3-4 hours like just talking about our mommy and daddy issues. So it wasn't a great idea.
No, but when I was thinking about Bronte and watching the show and thinking about my own experiences, I'm like, why do women feel like this a lot and why do men do this a lot? And it's because of the issues we get from our parents. You want a love that overcomes and like erases that, and any love you have as an adult can't do that. You can't replace your parents' bullshit. You have to like figure that out yourself.
No, that's like, I mean, come on, man. Like not to sound all jaded and shit. I mean, I already sound jaded sometimes, but like, look, we have to put up with a lot of shit to be with someone, right? Like it is that way. You have to put up with a lot of shit. You can call it compromise, you can call it other things, but it is just putting up with shit that we've had to deal with in the past, and then it manifests during a relationship, and then you have to just sort of deal with it. And you've made this point before where you're like, you have to just like live your fucking stable life, and you can't like get all like worked up and run around in circles with your partner.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Otherwise you end up like this shit. And then Joe says back to her on top of that, I think you're scared of what we can be together. What? Like 2 murderers? Like what does he think that she's going to do for him?
Yeah. It's just so toxic. If you have to say to someone, I think you're scared, it's like either murderers or just that they're going to completely emotionally overwhelm you and you guys are going to get so enmeshed you're going to lose yourselves. That's also shitty. That's not great, even if murder's not involved, you know?
No, totally. I mean, this is too much, right? I'm going to chill out on hang out with anybody for a few weeks probably.
Take a week break. The last 5 days have been a little rough.
Yeah, I'll go down the roster eventually. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not like that, everyone.
Yeah. So tea time. So the actress that plays Bronte's name is Madeline Brewer, not to be confused with Maddie, the character. So Madeline Brewer, who plays Bronte, was on Orange is the New Black season 1. And I was like trying to rack my brain. I'm like, which one is she? She's Trisha Miller, the white girl with the cornrows who was addicted to Oxycontin. And then the shitty guard who's super corrupt got her addicted again after she was clean and she overdosed and died. Yeah. And she was really good friends with Nikki and Red, and Red was her mother, but she ended up going to the shoe and then dying of an overdose. I knew she looked familiar. I knew she's been in something else, and she was in that.
She was in Orange is the New Black season 1 and everything, right? Like I remember, like she was the main character.
Yeah, she was a recurring character. Yeah. She was definitely like one of the main ones in the first season. Yeah. So that was really interesting. I was like, I knew her from somewhere.
That's pretty wild.
But she looks totally different.
Yeah, exactly. And she acts different too. This is a pretty wild transformation, like to turn into Zooey Deschanel.
Yeah. Yeah, and she looks super different as a blonde than a redhead.
Yeah. I mean, this is 10 to 12 years later, so
that's
presumably
true.
She looks different due to age as well, but that's wild. Orange, by the way, it was on Netflix, right? Orange is the New Black is that first streaming show that ever came out, right? On Netflix. It's the first streaming show.
Was it on Netflix originally, or was it HBO originally?
I'm not sure if it was like HBO. I don't think it was HBO because HBO didn't have streaming 12, 13, 14 years ago, did they?
Oh, you're right, maybe.
So it was Netflix.
I think you're right.
And it was, it was a crazy time, dude. It was like the advent of our new lives, right? Like we weren't streaming and binging shows until 2012, and that was Orange is the New Black with our girl Bronte. Wow. Yeah. Go Maddie. Yeah. Real life Maddie.
Yeah. Maddie Brewer.
Who's hotter, Reagan or Maddie?
Okay.
Obviously, I'd rather be with Maddie. Like, because Reagan would murder you.
Yeah. I just think Maddie's personality is hotter because she's so like fluffy and fun. Reagan, you never know what you're going to expect. So how could you even
And
get
Maddie's in the
excited
role play,
with
don't
her?
forget. Joe.
Yeah, exactly. And she can role play Reagan or Maddie. So you kind of get both with her, right?
Yeah, Anna Camp is cool. I'm going to go check out what else she's been in, but she was in Mindy. You said she was in Glee, right? I think she was. Maybe not. It was a
Yeah,
long
she's
time
in a
ago.
lot of stuff. She's great. Yeah, she's super awesome.
Oh, man.
All
Okay,
right.
well, you
Should we head out?
gotta go. I gotta go,
You gotta go too.
Yeah.
All right. You need to go decompress from your 5 days of fun.
Breaking up with women. It wasn't that fun, man. It was actually not that fun. Joe needs to calm down, okay? Like, this is too much. How do you have this much, like, love, anger, control issues? You break up with your wife, you go fuck someone else the same day while you're plotting twin sisters murdering each other. All at the same time.
Okay, this
about
is
it.
some more tea. Did you ever watch Drew Pinsky's Love Addiction show? So Drew Pinsky used to have all these addiction shows on like VH1 and
Yeah,
MTV.
I know what you're... Yeah.
So I think Joe is a love addict, has impulse control issues, murder addiction. What if every serial killer is really just a murder addict?
Let me think about that. Because Joe is control, right? And power.
Yeah.
Do some people just get off on the gore? I don't know, because first of all, the murder rate is, there's probably not enough serial murderers to like all get together like Mindhunter and come up with a theory. Some people might just like the action. I don't know. Like when you watch a movie and then a mob boss just kills somebody right there, and then they lick their lips. What if they're just into it? Like
who
you're
knows?
right.
I guess.
Like
Yeah.
like an addiction, and it's not mommy issues or daddy issues. Because Jeffrey Dahmer was mommy issues.
Yeah. Dude,
All right,
okay,
we're not a true crime
moms
podcast,
out
but
there.
we're pretty good at this.
Yeah, moms out there, you
Dude,
could
new
like,
generation moms are pretty good, I think, right?
Yeah.
I like to.
You know, as an adult, it's like you think about your parents and you're like, wow, my parents were just two funky humans that were going through life. But as a kid, your parents can do so much damage to you, you know?
That they
it's
can.
kind of wild.
That they can.
And on that note.
Yeah. Thanks, Shabnam. Everybody, we'll talk to you later. Please email us, chaiafterdark@chaiafterdark.com. And Shabnam, where can people find us?
So tune in next week for the finale of this series, episodes 7 through 10, and find us at Chai After Dark everywhere. Give us a 5-star rating on all podcast platforms and write us a little review where you can. We'd love to hear what you think.
That's right. Let's jingle out of here. I need to go find my 12th breakup of the year. Bye. I fucked that up. Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.